Burlington was a city of contrasts, its skyline gleaming with the promise of wealth and power, its streets lined with the shadows of struggle and dreams deferred. At its heart, two worlds collided: the polished towers of the rich and the crumbling neighborhoods where people fought every day just to survive. Lila Harper and her mother had always been on the side of the struggle. Her family lived in the crumbling district of Sycamore Park, a place where the rusted cars and peeling paint were more common than freshly paved sidewalks. Her mother worked long shifts as a waitress, often coming home late with little more than enough to put food on the table. Lila, at 17, had learned to carry the weight of the world on her shoulders. She worked part-time at a local bookstore, studied hard, and took care of things at home. She wasn't bitter about it, though. She had found beauty in the small things: the sound of her mother's laughter when they shared a cup of tea, the smell of rain on the streets, and the rhythm of her heartbeat when she let herself dream. But dreams were often fleeting, especially when you lived in a world where money dictated your worth. Lila's dreams of escaping her small neighborhood were as distant as the stars, and she never, ever imagined a life that could possibly intersect with the glittering world of the rich and powerful. It was on a cool autumn day, when the air smelled of damp leaves and early frost, that her world collided with his. Theo Caldwell was the kind of person you'd see in headlines. His family owned Caldwell Industries, one of the most prestigious tech companies in the city. They were untouchable, their lives measured in millions, their decisions shaping the city's economy. Theo, a 21-year-old business heir, had everything that money could buy except peace. He was used to people wanting something from him, whether it was an invitation to an exclusive event, an opportunity to network, or simply the status of being seen with the heir to the Caldwell fortune. People flocked to him. He could have anyone he wanted but himself. His life, like his father's before him, was carefully curated, a set of expectations designed by the family and society. His future had already been mapped out: inherit the family business, marry the right girl, make sure the empire stayed in the family. But lately, Theo was starting to wonder if this was all there was. He hated the pressure. He hated the whispers about his future wife, Veronica, a perfect match by his family's standards: rich, beautiful, and connected. But Veronica had never understood him, not in the way that mattered. He longed for something more, something real, something uncomplicated. It was on that crisp autumn day that Theo's car broke down just outside of Sycamore Park, while on his way to a business meeting. He wasn't familiar with the area, but his GPS had directed him down the narrow, winding roads toward this part of the city. He stood beside the sleek black car, trying to figure out what had gone wrong. Of course, he had no idea what he was doing. He was used to things being done for him: drivers, mechanics, assistants. But today, he was on his own, and it was both irritating and humbling. As he fumbled with the hood, feeling completely out of his element, a voice broke through the silence. "You need help?" Theo turned to see her, Lila Harper, standing in front of him with a warm, unassuming smile. She wasn't tall, not striking in the traditional sense, but there was a softness to her features, an inner strength in the way she stood there, looking at him with no awe or reverence. Yeah," Theo replied, rubbing the back of his neck. "I have no idea what I'm doing." Lila glanced at the car and raised an eyebrow. Clearly, she took a step closer and without further hesitation, opened the hood. "I think I can fix this," she said confidently. Theo stood there, a little taken aback. He was used to people asking if they could help, but this girl didn't hesitate. She didn't care who he was or what car he drove. She just saw a problem and fixed it. She wasn't impressed by his clothes or his name or his status. "That's impressive," Theo said, his tone a mix of surprise and curiosity. "You're a mechanic?" Lila laughed, the sound light and unbothered. "No, just a girl who knows a bit about cars. My uncle's a mechanic, taught me a few things." Theo found himself watching her as she worked. There was something about her, something real. She wasn't playing any games. She wasn't trying to impress him, yet he was completely captivated. The way she focused on the task, the way she moved, the way her hair fell around her face as she worked, everything about her felt different. She finished up the repair in record time, and Theo was left standing there, almost speechless. "You're good," he finally said. "Thanks. It's not rocket science." She shrugged. They exchanged a few more pleasantries, and Theo, feeling awkward, yet oddly grateful, offered, "Can I buy you a coffee? As a thank you?" Lila hesitated for just a moment, then nodded. "Sure, but no fancy stuff. I'm just a regular coffee shop girl." "Nothing fancy. Promise." Theo smiled, relieved by her lack of pretense. Over the next few weeks, their paths crossed often. Theo found excuses to visit the small coffee shop Lila worked at, pretending he needed to get out of the house or take a break from work. But it was always just an excuse to see her. Each time, he learned more about her. The way she could make him laugh with just a few words, how she'd always defend the underdog in a conversation, how she could talk about books, dreams, and the world like she'd already lived 1,000 lives. Lila didn't care about the status of his name or the power he wielded. She cared about what was real, and Theo found that both fascinating and terrifying. Lila, for her part, couldn't figure him out. She wasn't blind to his charm, had it in spades. But she had seen enough of wealthy boys who wanted something they couldn't have, and used charm as a weapon to get it. Theo didn't fit that mold though. He didn't act like he was above her. He didn't talk about money or status. He talked to her like she was someone worth listening to. Still, the divide between their worlds seemed too vast. What did someone like him see in someone like her? Was it just curiosity? The inevitable moment came when Theo invited Lila to one of his family's Evenza High Society Gala, celebrating the success of Caldwell Industries. Lila almost said no. She knew she didn't belong in that world, and she wasn't about to be some charity case for Theo's family. But when he looked at her, his eyes filled with that quiet pleading, she caved. "I want you to come," he insisted, his voice soft but firm. "It'll be fun. You'll see. You belong there just as much as anyone else." But the moment Lila stepped into that glittering ballroom, she felt like a fish out of water. The people around her were impeccably dressed, their conversations filled with the language of wealth and power. She felt her heart race, unsure of where to stand, what to say, who to talk to. She clung to Theo, but even with him by her side, she felt every gaze that lingered just a little too long. Then came the moment when Theo's mother, an elegant woman with icy blue eyes and a tight, calculating smile, cornered her. "So, you're the one my son has been spending so much time with," she said with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "How interesting." Lila, already on edge, smiled politely. "Yes, I've enjoyed getting to know him. You know, Theo could do so much better than a girl from a neighborhood like yours. I'm sure he's just doing this out of kindness. But I do hope you realize he has a future that requires someone more suitable." The words stung, but Lila held her ground, her chin lifting slightly. "I'm sure Theo can make his own decisions." But the seed of doubt was planted. Lila felt her world start to crumble. Maybe she wasn't good enough. Maybe she didn't belong here. And as she looked around the room, she realized that this life, this world of privilege, was a trap she'd never escape from. Theo, noticing the discomfort in her eyes, rushed over to her. "Lila," but before he could finish, she turned, her face flushed with a mixture of hurt and anger. "I don't belong here, Theo. I don't belong in your world." Theo stood there, caught between the world he was born into and the woman he had come to love. His parents, his legacy, the future they had planned for him, it all felt so small in that moment. "No," he said, his voice shaking. "You belong with me. This world doesn't get to decide that." The weeks that followed were filled with tension, misunderstandings, and more than one heated argument. But through it all, one thing remained clear. They loved each other. Despite the wealth, despite the pressure from their families, despite the societal expectations, Theo chose Lila. And in the end, it was the choice that changed everything. Theo left his family's business. He started a company of his own, with Lila by his side. They built something real, something that couldn't be bought or sold. They fought for their love, for their happiness. And in the end, they discovered that love true, real love, was worth more than any legacy or empire. Years later, Theo and Lila stood side by side, watching the sun set over Burlington. Their company had flourished, their love had endured, and together they had carved out a life that was uniquely their own. Theo kissed her forehead, a small, quiet promise. "We did it," he whispered. Lila smiled, her heart full. "Together," she said.